You doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So to start, obviously, people look at these movies and we see the aesthetic. We get to see Blake Lively in the suits and the outfits, and it's a lot what people talk about. But I love that this movie adds Italy into that because I think, we always go to Italy as this picturesque place. How much fun was it for you to balance, the views of Italy and the looks that people come to know with the mystery and helping you kind of trick audiences with that?
Yeah, I mean that was the fun part about it. I like, I just didn't think anybody can make a thrilling, scary movie in the dark, but to do it in broad daylight in the most beautiful place on earth, that's really fun for me. I like sort of terrible things happening in beautiful places in movies. And so it made it really fun to be able to not only have the beautiful setting, but have this opulent situation with this wedding filled with rich people. We knew the clothes. We could go crazy with the clothes. We go the fashion, the martinis, the lemons. So it was a blast. I was like a pig in shit, if you will.
Well, was it fun too for you to like take the YouTube of it all a little bit away in this film? Because obviously in the first one that was a driving force, but in this
Yeah.
one we don't get to see it as much.
Yeah, I mean that was such a great device to have for the first one because it just allowed narration and kind of to pull us along, and we still have a bit of it in this when she's
Mhm.
talking to her fans, but we didn't want to keep it so centered in that. We just kind of wanted to, bring you into a situation you remember. I like that Stephanie has this reach that she can use, and it can backfire on her sometimes, but we didn't want to make it the main focus. This was much more of a cat and mouse with Emily, and just, it's a movie about trust. Really, it's about a movie about trust. Is a movie about, can people change? Do you believe when people change? Why do people change? Do they really do it? And so that's what kind of drives it, and that's why it was fun to have them together more in this movie than we did in the first one.
Yeah, and I love that, Emily, I think, says it when she's talking about how Stephanie is like her only friend that she actually has. But I
Yeah.
also like that these two characters are in their own version of a whodunit because it's not necessarily a whodunit, but it is.
Yeah.
When you are playing with a genre like that with two characters who do have a like sadness to them and a
Mhm.
connection, what for you is the most kind of juicy part to really dive into, the like murder mystery stuff or those human moments between these two?
I think it's the human stuff. I mean, I'm all about characters. To me, it's always characters first, and then the plot second. Um, but when the characters drive the plot through their personality defects and the unknown sides of themselves, that's what I think is really interesting, and that's why I really loved about what we all came up with with the writers and all, for this, was the idea of, like, you don't know what somebody else is thinking, and so the person who tried to murder you a few years ago suddenly wants you to go with them somewhere and be this honored person in their life, and you haven't seen them for 5 years or whatever. Like, that to me is just, there's your whole movie, like who can you trust, and like you let your guard down and something terrible happens, that's what's fun. And then just to be able to have the twist that we have of, like, finding out who's actually doing all the stuff, that was that was the thing that put us over the top of going, like, okay, we got to make this movie.
I don't know how you figure out these shots, but I know Anna Kendrick's not that much taller than I am. And then you have her against Allison Janney and Blake Lively, who are two very tall women. There's, it's like a beautiful shot to look at when you see them, kind of like the angle. For you as a director, what is like the thing that kind of clues you into like how you want a specific shot to look, especially when you have like the height difference and things like that to play with?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love height differences. If you look at a lot of my movies, people tend to be like, my cinematographer is always yelling at me. He goes, "Can you get two people who are the same size so I can get them in a two shot?" It's like, no, what fun is that? It's really, I love working with the camera and with shots, and keeping them simple. I don't like to be showy with the shots because, I don't want to be one of these kind of look at how cool I am directors. It's all about the characters, but then it's every shot is about how do I put you inside that character's head the most effectively, because that's really, what movie making is all about, and being a movie star and getting stories across this way. You gotta be able to see inside people's heads in a weird way. Narration you can use, but it can be a bit of a crutch because you're kind of saying, okay, you're not going to pick up on this thing that you don't know. And some stuff people just can't know. You can't look at somebody's face and know their backstory. But at the same time, you should be able to feel what they're feeling and go like, oh, they're lying, or oh shit, they're really uncomfortable, but they're acting like they're not. That's what it's really all about. And so, however the shots can show that, that's what I'm always looking for.
And does your approach change for each project, or is it beholden on like what an actor is doing? Because you've done comedies, you've done The Office, you've done Ghostbusters, but then and you've done fantasy movies. But then this is like a completely different ball game when you look at all those genres.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the story will tell you how it needs to be shot. That's how I really look at it. Because if I'm doing like big, crazy, stylized shots for no reason, and it's not making you as the audience invest in these characters and what's happening, then that's just kind of showboating. I had really old fashioned teachers when I was in film school who came from like the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. And they were very anti the director being a show off with the camera. And then movies have kind of changed over the years, and now, and I think it's good. I think style is good to have, but it has to be in service of the story. And some stories require a lot of stylish, kind of camera moves and framing and all that, but only if it creates a feeling.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And as a murder mystery fan, I really, really loved, especially this sequel. I liked the first one a lot, but like the sequel is so good.
Oh,
So thank you so
thanks.
much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it. And thanks to the Mary Sue. You guys are always really
Of
nice.
course. Of course.
Thanks.
Thank you.